still remember it like it was yesterday. It was an overcast day, dreary, not your typical spring day in Pacific Palisades, Hawaii. School just started and I took my seat in the back of my 7th grade math class. And I was taking my belongings out of my backpack when I heard an unusual voice call out my name. I saw a teacher's assistant, a new one, and she told me to grab my things and come with her to the front office. Nervously, I gathered my things and I walked down the long hallway to the office. And as we approached, my vice principal was waiting for me halfway. As I got near him, he had an uncomfortable smile on his face, the kind of smile that says, "Everything's gonna be okay," which is exactly what he told me when he put his arm around my shoulder. It takes a village to raise a child. This quote, for most kids, is a mere metaphor. But for me, however, it was literal. My name is Kila Keone. I'm from Pacific Palisades, a small town in the mountains of Oahu, Hawaii. And as I stand here today, I represent more than just the Keone family. I represent a multitude of family and people that come from Hawaii because they all have had a part in raising me. I'm standing where I am today because of my village. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Not necessarily Hawaii, not necessarily football, and not necessarily my personal story. I want to talk about community. Because the magic of Hawaii isn't geography, it's responsibility. It's people choosing each other. It's a group of ordinary human beings deciding, you're not doing this alone. And here's the truth that I've come to believe. Community is not something you find. It is something that you choose. And if community is something we choose, what happens when we stop choosing it? Losing community is directly linked to shorter lives, worse mental health, and weaker societies. And when people feel chronically lonely, their risk of an early death rises dramatically. Anxiety and depression increase, trust declines, people withdraw, and people stop believing that someone would notice if they disappeared. And the dangerous part is this: loneliness doesn't always look like isolation. It can look like a full classroom, a packed stadium, a crowded church, or even a busy college campus. You can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. And when enough people in a society feel unseen, society doesn't just collapse overnight. It slowly disconnects. And that's why this matters, because we're not just losing our hangouts or traditions, we're losing the invisible threads that hold human beings together. We're losing our villages. Currently, I'm speaking in a place that looks on paper that it should be immune to loneliness. Provo, Utah is consistently ranked amongst the most religious cities in America. Church attendance is high, marriage rates are high, volunteering is high. On Sundays alone, thousands gather in tight geographic wards designed for built-in community. And yet, Utah has repeatedly ranked near the top in the United States for antidepressant use. Young adults nationwide, including highly religious populations, report rising loneliness. College students across the state of Utah report feeling unseen despite constantly being surrounded by their colleagues and peers. That tension is known as the Provo paradox. And the paradox begs the question, how can a place structured for connection still produce isolation? My first time walking on campus at BYU, I saw a group of boys hanging out with each other, talking together as they were walking to their next class. And it felt like Hawaii. I thought, I could join in with these group of boys, and I found a place that I could belong. And as I approached them, I came to find out that they weren't together. They didn't even know each other's names. They were simply individuals in passing. They were together geographically, but they weren't connected. You can say that they were together, but alone. We live in a world where its entirety is available to us. We can travel digitally and physically anywhere and constantly surround ourselves by others. And yet we can still feel the isolation as if we were alone. According to a study, nearly half of college students report struggling with loneliness, even when surrounded by their peers, suggesting that physically being near others doesn't guarantee a real connection. But it doesn't have to be this way. There's a reason that I left my village in Hawaii, and there's a purpose for me being here in Provo. Based off my first experience on campus, I thought that the only person I had was the kid in the mirror, until I found my new village. Coming out of high school, I was offered a walk-on opportunity for my dream school, which is Brigham Young University. I jumped at the opportunity, and that brought me here today. I joined the BYU football team with fears that I didn't belong. I feared that I would be looked at as a threat. I feared that I would feel alone. However, I found a lot of the same aspects that I had back in Hawaii when I left my village. I was accepted with open arms, and I found like-minded people that were going out of their way to make sure that Kila Keone, the 17-year-old freshman, was okay. My first time in the locker room is engraved in my memory. I walked down the long hallway, being informed that my locker number was number 105, the only isolated locker in the building. As I made my way down to the lonely locker, I was looking at a lot of the people that I admired when I was younger. And as I entered the main room, some of the guys got up from their locker and started to approach me. And I thought, like, oh man, here we go, time to grow up. But before I could say anything, one of the guys came up to me and they said, yo, what's up, Kila? We've been waiting for you to get into the building, bro. Welcome to the family. And I was literally embraced by the BYU football team. And I haven't felt that sense of belonging ever since the day that I left my village. In Hawaii, there's a phrase for what I felt in that locker room. The Aloha spirit is widely known as the magic behind what makes the community of Hawaii so special. Not only is Aloha a greeting or a vibe or a marketing slogan on a printed t-shirt, it's a decision. A decision to see someone, claim someone, and to take responsibility for someone who doesn't even share your last name. And I used to think that that was exclusive to Hawaii, cultural, but I was wrong. A researcher at the University of Hawaii studied what happens when students say that they've learned to live the Aloha spirit. And what they found was powerful. Students who reported practicing Aloha significantly lowered their psychological distress and they had a lower risk of depression. This wasn't because of the beaches or the sunshine, it was because of connection. And so I started to ask myself, what makes Aloha work? When I stripped it down, it wasn't a mystical, magical recipe. It was a behavior. And it came down to 3 simple decisions. First is to see people, to make others feel noticed, named, and valued. And the second is to show up, not once, but repeatedly, reliably, and on random Tuesdays. And the last is to carry someone, is to decide that somebody else's well-being is partially your responsibility. And that's the magic. That magic didn't require Hawaii, and it didn't even require the Hawaiian people. It simply required a choice. And I didn't realize how powerful those choices were until the day my village chose to show up for me. Going back to that morning, I was walking down the long hallway. My vice principal's arm was around my shoulder. He told me that everything was going to be okay. And instantly I knew that probably wasn't. I stepped foot into the front office and I was met with my family, embracing and crying together. And it took 2 words from my father to completely shake my life. It's Papa. My grandpa wasn't just my grandpa. He was the community's grandpa. He was everyone's role model, and he was known as Papa John. And his passing didn't just affect me and my family. It affected the whole village. Through the celebrations that we had for his life, I realized what I had. I had a community. I had the village that raised me, and the village continued to stand by me during that hard time. And without them, I don't know who I would have become. This event showed me that I wasn't alone, and that I'd never be alone as long as I had my village. And here's the truth. The question is not whether communities still exist, because they do. It's whether you're willing to build one. Every village begins the same. It's when one person decides that they will see you, they will show up for you, and they will carry you, even when you feel like you can't even carry yourself. And that's it. That's the secret. I thought I lost my village when I left Hawaii, but I didn't. I realized something bigger. Villages don't disappear, and they aren't exclusive to where you're from. They're built, created, every time someone chooses responsibility over convenience. And if you choose to build one, people can be together and not alone. Thank you.